Okay, the stream is starting now. All right, here we go.
So can people hear us now?
Hello?
Yes, I just need to adjust the audio or the window capture here.
The window capture here.
If people could let us know if they can hear us.
Typing.
Yes, I could hear you, Bob.
Okay.
Nice.
And
Looks
I
like
can
we're
hear
back in
myself.
action.
Yes. So some combination of an OBS update, but it's okay. We're good. We're good. Thanks everyone for sticking around. Let's do this. So let's welcome to the monthly Kubernetes office hours, where third Wednesday of every month we take a bunch of user questions from you in Slack and we answer them as best we can. So let's go into intros real quick. Puya, go ahead.
Sure. Hi, I'm Puya from Giantswarm in Cologne. I mainly work on security. We run clusters on AWS, Azure, and on-premise. Yeah.
Hey folks, I'm Ilya from VWorks. I'm based out of London, and today is the first day of the summer here, for real. And I would like to help you with any continuous delivery and GitOps type questions, as well as anything to do with networking and kubeadm type stuff. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Bob over here in the U.S. at the University of Michigan. It is not summer here because it is snowing outside. I am your man for sort of on-prem type issues and federation questions.
My name's Jeff. I'm also at the University of Michigan in the U.S. I'm primarily a developer, so I work with architecture decisions and building stuff within Kubernetes, and I also do a lot of stuff with the job spec within Kubernetes.
And I'm George Castro. I work at Heptio, and I will be your host for today. Thanks for everyone for sticking around despite our technical problems. You can help us out by spreading the word or thinking of questions or things that you've always wondered about Kubernetes. So before we start, we have a few ground rules here. This is a judgment-free zone, so if someone asks a question that you feel is a little bit too easy or something like that, remember we all had to start from somewhere, so we're trying to build like a very supportive environment here in the Office Hours channel, so please help us out in that regard. We will do our best to answer your questions, but do remember that it's, Bob can't necessarily SSH to your cluster and things like that, so there's some things that are just plain unanswerable. So in that cases, we'll give you either generic advice or links to documentation or a SIG where you can go get help. So hopefully, even if we can't fix your very specific problem, we can at least give you a place to go. Audience, you can help us out by tossing in URLs to documentation or interesting blog posts. So if someone asks a question, you can always help us out by using your Google skills to help bring as much information into the channel as possible. All of these sessions are recorded and available on YouTube. So if you're using this for work or for your team or something like that, let us know, because we're always striving to make the live stream better. Like by maybe testing the audio the day before when there's a software update. I don't know.
Maybe we can get some from OBS on here.
Yeah, let's OBS office hours. Yes. If you want to sit on this panel, if you're an expert and want to come in and contribute, it's a great way to get started contributing to Kubernetes, as well as helping other people is always a lot of fun. We tossed in the bits of the notes into the channel itself, so you want to help write stuff down, feel free. And we're always looking for marketing help. So if you can help tweet this or tell a friend or post about it on Reddit or any kind of useful thing that helps us spread the word to get more people here, the better off we'll be. And soon we'll be holding raffles for t-shirts and things like that as soon as I sort out my t-shirt code problem. So we'll be giving out a lot of, where's my Kubernetes spinner? I have one here somewhere. So we'll be giving out a lot of cool swag like that. And lastly, there's one. And lastly, feel free to always just hang out in hash office hours throughout the month. I know Bob and Jeff have been collating questions throughout the month. So even if it's not a live stream, you can still get a question in there, and you can ping Jeff about starting a Slack bot so we can have a cool queue thing. So with that, now 21 after, let's get started. Okay. All right. So somebody says still not able to hear everybody. If the audience could just just post in the channel how the audio sounds, that would be really great. Let's start first with Nick. Or do I have a question from before?
Yeah. Before we do that, let's just make sure audio is working.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll check on my phone too.
Yeah, lots of people are typing, so somebody hears us. Yep.
Audio appears fine. Okay, cool.
Okay,
Nice.
Okay, that's good then.
Okay. Sweet. All right. So, Bob, are you going with the first question then?
I can.
Okay. No, I mean, did you want to do the previous question from before, or do you want me to start with Nick right away?
Oh, I would just start with
Okay,
Nick.
I'm starting with Nick. Nick asks, question, we're looking at GCE now rather than on-prem. That means a bunch of our internal services, like Dashboard, Prometheus, Grafana, will all have ingress and be available publicly. This is obviously bad, so looking into authentication. We can do this via LDAP or also Google, both via OpenID. I'm looking at tools like github.com/bit.ly/OAuth2_proxy. Typical suggestions are to run this as a sidecar alongside the dashboard, Prometheus, etc., and then have ingress talk to the OAuth2 proxy, which will bounce to Google for authentication. Is this a typical approach? I'm finding it somewhat cumbersome to set up, mostly due to us having specifically all the possible redirect URLs when configuring the Google creds.
So I know in the past, one of the ways that Bob and I handled it was you would actually just set up a VPN in the cluster and then VPN to get to internal services that way. So you're not dealing with any like weird redirect stuff or OAuth, but that also is a bunch more setup and you're dealing with networking. So
You can kubectl proxy.
yeah.
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 So if you really want single sign-on, OAuth2 proxy might be nice if you have like lots of users. Dashboard, I'm not sure if I would recommend it at all, but you can always like kubectl port forward or proxy to those. And Grafana might be nice to have like a real interface.
Some people use like as in sort of in between a VPN and something else. Could be a SOX proxy. So you'd use like, we did that for a while, and I think we sort of still use it for some cases. But we ended up having a custom ingress controller that essentially has this sort of admin route, which takes you to all the in-cluster services. We could probably use an interesting ingress controller that I'm not entirely sure, actually. Like the GKE ingress controller is pretty poor when it comes to auth and stuff, but I think you should be able to set up some routes that require auth with like traffic or perhaps something like Glue, or I don't know, does Contour handle auth? Do you know, George?
I do not know offhand, I'm sorry.
You can do IP whitelisting, like on a CIDR, like an IP range, even with the Nginx ingress controller. That's what we do for some companies and also for our own VPN. But then you need to have like a fixed IP range where you come from. You might do like an internal load balancer or something that is just going to some network that you know.
There is, I haven't used this, so this is one of those research it more, but CNCF is looking at sandboxing a project called Telepresence, and that does allow remote access to services within a Kubernetes cluster securely as well. But that's more developer-oriented, not necessarily what you're going to use to get to like Grafana or whatnot. But it could serve as the same thing.
There is one more way when you use the Kubernetes API directly in your browser, there's a proxy route. You just need to install the certificates of the cluster into your system, which is quite complex. I can post some docs for that because we wrote them at some point in time.
Yeah, that would be great.
Thank you.
The link that Joel Speed posted in the Slack looks to be a pretty good solution too.
Awesome.
Sweet. And one thing, so check out those resources, Nick, and then feel free to post follow-up questions. We do enjoy coming back to topics as we get time for them. So moving on. Morellanis? I don't know. Sorry. Iva says, question, I have a GitHub repo with a bunch of YAMLs, and I use a makefile to apply them to my cluster. Is there any tool to help with that? Or is a good old Makefile enough? Do you guys have any recommendations on how to manage the files?
Ilya.
You're muted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is you know, it is one of my favorite.
Oh, wait. Audio kicked out. 1 second.
Oh, damn. Can you hear now?
Okay, there you go. Continue.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I was just saying it's one of my favorite questions, I suppose. I've worked on a project which is a personal project at this point in time. We're not using this internally, but something you might want to take a look at. It's inspired by JSONet. By the way, JSONet is probably another option you probably want to look at. Actually, don't look at JSONet, look at KSONet. But I mean, this KSONet, one of the things that you have to do is learn another syntax. If that's something you're unhappy with, take a look at the project of mine, which is KubeGen. I'll post that in Slack momentarily. The idea is to let you write your configuration in JSON or YAML, whichever one you prefer. And it allows to implement some basic reusability. At this point in time, it's a very experimental personal project. So, yeah. So if this is like a very sophisticated use case, you might want to take a look at KSONet instead. Obviously, another option for a lot of people had been Helm historically, right? But Helm doesn't simply introduce a way for you to manage duplication in your configuration. Helm introduces a whole bunch of other things. So hopefully with Helm 3, there may be some changes to how that happens, right? Because at the moment, basically, if you want to go for Helm, you have to do a whole lot of things that you didn't actually consider in the first place. So you now have like daemon that renders templates, and the whole templating engine isn't quite the most user-friendly one. So yeah, take a look at KubeGen or KSONet. I'll put links in the
Yeah, and for KSONet, we're doing a major release at the end of the month, and there's been a lot of retooling around giving you options that aren't JSONet. So,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll be really looking forward to that. Thanks. Well, you're welcome. All right, moving on. Let's see. Bavarian Biddy asks, question, we apply multiple pods with requests on CPUs. We also see the reservation via kube state metrics. When we stop these pods, but the reserved CPU is in use for around 5 minutes. When we try to deploy new pods with CPU requests, we see in the log files insufficient CPU available. Which component handles CPU usage? Eviction manager is configured to handle memory and image FS. And hopefully you guys can see the text formatting properly in the channel there. Yep.
That one I don't know offhand.
No, same.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. It's very strange that it's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's quite a long time. Also, usually you can overbook CPU anyway.
Yeah. Usually the time to kick back to report back is about 20 seconds.
So the pods are stopped, but are they removed?
Yeah, they might take a while to get removed.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. Oh, they are removed?
Okay.
Maybe some dangling stuff in Docker. I would check the Docker daemon, like get to the machine if you can, and see if there is something dangling there.
I mean, if it is almost like always a certain interval of around 5 minutes, then it's definitely like there is some cleanup process running. But if the pod has been removed, yeah, at that point I'd look at the container runtime.
Yeah, that are like the kubelet logs on the node itself.
Yeah.
He's typing. Let's see.
Yep.
Everyone else, feel free to keep submitting questions. It's fine. We can handle a backlog, so you're more than encouraged to keep asking. So he linked to a pull request.
Yep. Cache
For a resync interval. Huh?
It's the scheduler.
I mean, ultimately, what I would do is look at kubelet logs to see why something isn't scheduling, because there has to be something that's squawking about that.
And if not, is there Signode? What would be the proper follow-up?
I would probably start with Signode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me get you the information for that. I'm pasting something here for the channel for everybody, which is one of my favorite pages that I go. This is the master list of all the special interest groups in Kubernetes. So each one of these SIGs is responsible for a separate area. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Maybe also SIG scheduling.
Yeah. So all the SIGs hold public meetings, and they're open to the public, and they're recorded, and they each have their own mailing lists. So maybe Node might be a best place to start if we have no one. Sometimes we have someone from Signode here.
They're pretty good in Slack too. If you just want to pop over there and poke them.
Yeah. So, Bavarian Biddy, hopefully that gives you a place to start. Feel free to come back and follow up. And get
I'm really curious about that one.
Yeah. So feel free to just hang out in the channel, and maybe after the broadcast we can keep going there. Kapintik Man, I have no idea how to pronounce that.
I would say Captain K-Man.
Captain K-Man.
Captain Caveman. Oh man.
Oh, okay, I get it. All right, I'm just old. All right. Hi, I've been trying to run a Kubernetes on ARM setup through Raspberry Pis with Raspbian for a while, but I'm running a lot of problems with Weave. Whenever I launch the Weave containers, they fall into crash loops. Can anyone help? I know someone.
Hi. So the first thing I would ask immediately is, are you sure that the Weave containers that are spinning up are ARM64 containers? Because I believe by default it's going to be an x86 container, and that will just cause a crash loop back off. Trust me, I know. I dealt with this for like 3 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we did multi-arch builds, but
it also depends on how he installed Weave, because he might have. Yeah, the deployment may be pointing towards. 1 second. Sorry.
So he's asking. The follow-up is, how do I confirm that they are ARM containers? Now would be a good time to just do your quick spiel on multi-arch.
Oh God. So I wound up writing an initializer. So first off, do like kubectl get pods in the, I think they install in the like kube system namespace, and then see what the container image is. If you look on Docker Hub for that container, there's going to be a bunch of tags, and some of them are going to say ARM64. That's the quick way to look. I wound up writing an initializer for my home lab because I have both x86 and ARM servers, and I set it up so the initializer looks to see if there's an annotation on a deployment, and if there is an annotation that says use this for ARM64 and use this for x86, it'll actually deploy everything across the cluster regardless of the architecture. Mm-hmm. So that's how I solved that problem, but I know there are Weave containers for... Yes, I'm pretty sure that by default will install the x86 container. Yeah. But I also know that they do have an install script for ARM64 and Raspberry Pi. I'll dig that up really quick.
The other thing is, as of I think yesterday, there's now a ARM64 channel here in the Kubernetes Slack.
Yes, there is.
Oh, that's good to know. When did that happen? I'm a Slack admin. I didn't know we did that.
Yesterday, thanks to Ed. Yeah.
Oh, we need to tell Ed. We need to announce those things.
Actually, if you want, tell Ed to hop over in here.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you hang out in the armchair, if that indeed is a problem, and come back to us if that is not the problem, because we actually have, if it's an actual Weave problem, I'd like to know. Man, I thought Ilya was going to grab
Captain
that one.
K, in that article, they actually have a different kubectl apply command. That's what I would do, but I'm almost positive he did kubectl get pods. You'll see that the image is actually the x86 image.
And if it's not, just post it in the channel, and then we'll we'll move
back to
on
it.
from there.
Yeah, I've not actually used it. I thought we definitely had multi-arch builds, but I don't get why that's broken.
So when you do, so you know in the default Weave docs, when you do kubectl apply, and it's like Weave -1.9 or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, see his command, he's doing all this other kubectl versioning stuff. I'm wondering if maybe that script on the other end is like smart enough to realize whether it's ARM or not. Yeah, this one git io/weave-cube 1.6.
Oh, so okay.
I'm just wondering if that will figure out
Yeah.
architecture.
So those are supposed to be synchronized, right? The output of that would be potentially the same as the other. So you could simply curl that URL. If you substitute that kubectl version, essentially you could say just version of your like just put the version string in. You could do like alt evidence like curl that. You don't have to do that whole thing. You could say v19, for example, or whatever version you have.
Okay.
And if you do that, and you would see what's the output. But I don't think. I think that should point to Docker Hub images that are still multi-arch.
Oh, good.
And it must be the case in all the cases. So maybe we could take a look at the exact issue with. Maybe we could take a look at what does kubectl describe pods for one of the pods look like. To start with, that seems like a good option to take a look at, and maybe we'd see from there. And also we could probably look at logs, because what I know happens sometimes is that some people need to override the default subnet. So if you could post the output of describe, and if you can grab a log from one of the pods, that would be very helpful.
Awesome, and it's good to know that there's an ARM channel as well. So if it is indeed an ARM issue, then it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt for us to document that somewhere.
Yeah. So, and I think if it's an ARM issue, I think that you would usually there would be like a what do you call it, OCI runtime error type thing. Like it would say executable not found or whatever. Command not.
Okay, he's gonna try and get some logs.
Yeah, and hang out for a bit, Captain K-Man.
Yeah.
We'll move on in the meantime while he's digging through logs. iKettles asks, question: we sometimes see issues with health checks failing on pods for various different reasons, mainly connection refused. This happens on our own applications, but also our ingress controller and some Cube system pods. We often think this is due to a lack of resources, but our metrics don't indicate this to be a problem. For some context, we run 2 dual CPU 8 RAM nodes that are usually around 75 to 80% RAM usage and very little CPU usage. If you think this is resource related, can you give me any tips to mitigate this? We have resource requests and limits on almost all of our applications in the cluster. Thanks.
So your 75 to 80% RAM usage, is that what you've allocated with requests and limits, or is that the actual usage of the box?
Because there is overhead for the components too, right? And then what's the master usage? Like how big is it?
Okay, that's actual usage. Okay.
Because this could depend on the API server like not having enough resources.
Yeah, is 8 gigs of RAM enough?
If they're not running a lot?
Yeah, and for small things, it's no big deal.
Okay.
Master sounds a bit small.
Yeah, our master is a 4 gig, just for the rest of the audience here. The master is a 4 gig RAM machine with 1 CPU.
If it's a small cluster, that's still, mostly okay.
Okay, yeah. Like, which version of Kubernetes is that? Because there was some memory leaks in up to 1.9, I think. Like 1.8, 1.7 had some memory leaks when you had a lot of API requests.
193.
Oh, okay, that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
That is.
If you don't mind me asking, like, what's your application like framework or language or things like that?
This could be a networking issue, because if it happens on kube system parts and ingress controllers too, it's
Vlad is saying network level exhaustion? Question mark.
yeah.
Confluence, Jira. Okay.
Oh, Elasticsearch.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
This sounds a bit too small for Jenkins and Elasticsearch.
yeah. And Java itself does not behave correctly in containers. You need to, like, even if you set your resource limits, unless you're on Java 10, you have to also hard specify that with the like Java parameters when it starts.
Oh, so you actually have to like dig into stuff.
Actually, it's the same thing with Node.js too, up
Okay.
until I forget what release. It was recent.
Yeah, they don't behave very well.
Yeah, they only look at they don't look at the resource restrictions on the C group. They look at the host.
Okay. And do we have so I remember seeing the last Java changelog with a lot of container improvements around.
Yeah, that was Java 10.
Yeah.
You can do that with Java 9 as well, isn't it? Like you had to use a particular, as of like some particular patch release, and you had to enable an experimental node.
Yeah. They do set the JVM heap size. Doesn't have much of an effect.
Yeah, I think that's normal, because you need that additional flag, or what it was in 9 and 10.
Are there any like corresponding errors in the applications themselves? Yeah, it sounds like a greater.
What are you using for networking?
Yeah, that's going to be my next question.
It's on Raspberry Pis? Oh no, that's
somebody else. Yeah.
yeah, that's the other one.
Which network driver are you using on AWS? Is the default?
Does Cops default to Calico? I'm not sure.
KubeNet.
Okay.
He's using M4/M5 instances. Just
could you post like exact Java flags and the version of Java that you're using? That would help a lot if we could see that.
Yep, and the Raspberry Pi question, the logs are in the channel as well, if you've seen that. Although I don't see anything in there that would indicate an architecture issue. So with this,
connect to ourselves.
With the stack he's trying to run, I mean, do you think it's RAM exhaustion also?
I mean, it's quite a big stack for this small cluster. Like we've seen, especially with Jenkins, if there is like lots of pods, it drains the API kind of, and then the API is just doesn't get enough time to do other things.
Yeah, but he's only got 2 nodes, right?
He's not seeing a lot of usage on the master itself, which is where the API server is.
Right. Okay, in the meantime, Ilya is going to help Captain K-Man with his Weave Raspberry Pi. We'll get back to them here in a minute. This one is very interesting.
I haven't worked with CubeNet before. I'm not sure how good it works on AWS. We always use Calico. That works very nice.
Another +1 for Calico.
He's typing now. Let's see. So while he's gathering logs and things like that, if anyone else has questions, feel free to plop them in the channel here. It's a hard one. And do we have any links? Is there, this is probably a rhetorical question, a guide to tuning Java apps that run on Kubernetes? That deals with all these?
Someone must have written something, right? So
I remember a couple of them just for running it inside a container, but not necessarily for Kubernetes itself.
I was just thinking about all the little tricks you were talking about, like the heap size and what applies, what doesn't apply. And it feels like everything's from pre-Java 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff isn't using Java 10 yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen much Java 10 in the wild.
Yeah. I mean, there's also no guarantee that's this problem, but I mean, it wouldn't hurt to.
And I guess you won't be able to change the Java version that Elasticsearch or something is using anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we're pretty much stuck on this. What would help here? You think putting all this information in a Stack Overflow question, or
yeah, maybe.
Or
we have a network inspection tool, like a container that runs and gives you some info on your network. Maybe that helps running. I'll look it out. One of our SREs put something just recently. And then Stack Overflow and
so I think we could do
all the info in there.
Yep, if you can get this into a Stack Overflow question with all the information that you have, we could definitely post that to the Kubernetes users list, post it in the channel, and kind of at least help you get some visibility on this. Seems a little. Any more questions? Feel free to add them into the channel. Looks like Captain K-Man might have a bad SD card on one of the nodes. Maybe is that what image inspect error is? And I didn't see anything in his log that hinted that it was an ARM issue, but
overlay is failing, so it might be this.
It just seems like one VNet pod has started, but the other two having issues. So looks like and if you Captain K-Man, you could post the kubectl get pods all namespaces with output equals wide as well. Then we could see node names column as well. That would help. And definitely looks like one of the pods is happy. Another one is having a weird Docker error, and a third one, which I'm thinking is like maybe to do with file system or something. Or and another one is I'm not sure why that is. Maybe you could grab the log for the crash load backoff pod, so then we could see what's happening there.
Uh, can you repeat that command, or just type it in the channel for him? Will be better. And just to mention to the streamers out there, it's giantswarm/cube-netcheck is the tool that Booyah is mentioning. So what's the TLDR on this tool?
It's basically just checking if your network is healthy, and will tell you if not for now. And I think it links out to some advanced tooling that will give you more information.
Okay.
I haven't used it myself, so I'm not 100% sure. But it might give you a first indication of if your network has some issue.
Yeah. I love learning about all the little tools like this. That's like part of the reason I started this. It's just people's GitHub stuff is always useful. Plenty of time for more questions. We can officially end in 7 minutes, but if no one's time bounded, we can go a little bit longer depending on questions and people's.
Try and make up for the beginning.
Yeah, Jeff, I know you're not doing anything today, right?
Well, I got something at 10:30. So.
Whoa. Joe Speed wants to mention Kubernetes can also test networking. I've been using it recently. You can find that at github.com/aprenda/Kubernetes. Definitely coolest name I've heard so far.
I love naming.
Yes. So we have time for more questions, people. Is there anything in users that you feel you want to tackle, Jeff or Bob? That you want to repeat here?
If no other questions, can toss out the one from earlier.
Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Go for it.
And
Let me
everybody
scroll.
else, feel free to keep on queuing questions up in the channel.
Let me scroll back up 1 sec. Okay, from PMC Graph. Hi, I'm having an issue with pod security policy on a kubeadm installed cluster, where after I have added a PSP cluster and cluster binding, I get the following kubelet log entries. Failed creating a mirror pod for kube API server, blah, 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 blah. After I've altered the API server admission control arg, adding pod security policy. The Docker container is restarted and kube cuddle is being served, but the API server does not appear in cuddle get pods, where the other control plane pods are in the list. And he had created a Stack Overflow question along with that.
Ooh, if you could paste that in the channel so it's fresh in our minds, that would be great.
It's super strange because API server then by definition is running, but it's not showing it.
Yeah, so there was a related issue that I found that I think might be the problem. I'll post it in here as well. An issue, the mirror pod being the key thing there. Essentially, like, since it's running outside the scope of, Kubernetes spinning it up, it's running as like a pod managed by kubelet. There are issues trying to assign like a pod security policy to it. But I don't know PSPs as well as I should either.
Yeah, we're running PSPs since 1.9 and also in 1.10, and we also self-host the components besides kubelet. Didn't have this issue yet. Sure, I had it once that I didn't see the controller manager once, but that was just for like if it's restarting in between, you won't see it sometimes. In some race conditions, maybe.
Yeah, I was really curious about this one just because like I didn't have a good answer to it, and also kind of hard to dive into it if you can't replicate the problem.
Pod security policies are like because so few people use them, it's still there might be dragons in places because we might not have found all the bugs yet, or all the like edge cases. Let's say it's like RBAC in 1.7 or so.
Yeah.
And I can't help you, so I just retweeted your question to hopefully get some more eyeballs on it. And we have time for one or two more questions, if we have any. So I have a question for the group, looking at Kubernetes users. Someone's asking, hello, I'm trying to understand the resource limits for CPU and nodes, having a limit CPU :1, in the YAML. Would this limit only nodes that have one CPU, for example? And then the answer is 1 core per resource, right?
There is a little bit of a better explanation for that.
Yeah.
Let me find.
So someone then linked to the docs what exactly means by managing
Resource requests and limits, yeah.
Yeah. See, so this is something that always gets me is one AWS virtual CPU, one GCP core, one Azure core, and then one thread on a bare metal machine.
Right. The only Azure is the only ones that gives you, like, they don't bother with hyperthreading or anything like that. You get real cores there.
Okay.
Yeah, that confuses sometimes. Just you have more than you're used to.
Which probably isn't bad.
No, it's a good
Right.
size.
Good.
It's great for data science workloads.
Definitely.
So just something I saw when I saw the question scrolling by is one doesn't mean one everywhere the same. That's the world we've built. So I thought that was just interesting.
The best place to check is just always the docs there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has them all listed out.
They're a bit complex, but it's you just read them 2 or 3 times maybe, then they make a bit more sense, because there is like half a CPU doesn't mean you get reserved half a CPU. You have half of the time shares kind of, which is hard to imagine kind of sometimes in the beginning when you're like, so because your half could be lower prioritized than another half.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, with that, just a few more questions. While Ilya continues fixing the Raspberry Pi cluster, hopefully.
Yeah, those internal IPs being the same, that doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll figure that out.
Sweet. Okay, well, I'm going to go into the outro while you guys keep going. Everyone else, feel free to hang out and hash office hours. Sorry about the technical issues, but I think I know what the solution is going to be to that. So thanks to the following companies for supporting the community with developer volunteers: Amazon, Bitnami, Giant Swarm, Heptio, Liquid Web, Northwestern Mutual, Packet.net, Pivotal, Red Hat, Weaveworks, University of Michigan, and VMware. Soon we'll be holding raffles and things like that. For sure we'll have a raffle at KubeCon, I think, during the live office hours. So we'll be having a panel similar to this during KubeCon if you're going to Copenhagen. It's on Friday, I want to say around noon. Check the schedule.
Noon.
Okay, so we'll be having a similar thing. I'll just have a microphone. You can ask your question, and then wonderful people will answer your questions. Also, make sure you check the schedule for KubeCon. There's a lot of workshops and things happening on the Monday. So I'm planning on being there all week, and you can catch any of us there. Everyone here is going to KubeCon except for Jeff, so you'll miss out on Jeff, but that's okay. He'll be in Seattle for sure, right?
Yep. Oh, definitely.
And lastly, feel free to hang out in #office hours. Consider it your safe space to ask any silly question you want. And once again, thanks everyone for sticking through those technical problems. I feel like we did a Kubernetes thing where a rollback actually like worked the first time and it worked immediately. So. All right, with that, thanks for everybody, and we will be going again in about 6 hours or so.
Yep,
4
6 hours.
p.m. our time. What time is that in the U.S.? It's the West Coast time. But check the document linked at the top of the office hours for the next session. which will be later on today. And we look forward to see everyone there. Thank you very much.
See ya.
Yep.
See ya.
Thanks all.
Bye.
And see you.